In the final days Jan spent with us, in the days following her passing, I was able to find out more about this amazing woman than I had been able to know before. You see, Jan and I were well acquainted here at church. We talk every week. She was quick with a smile and would always offer me words of encouragement. I would see her when she would spend her time volunteering here at a mission or maybe a program the church was offering. And she was always handing out those smiles to everyone that she met. But as I found out, Jan was not one to call attention to herself. Many of her achievements and most of her accomplishments she didn't brag or boast about. She was humble, sometimes quiet servant who truly shone brighter than the eye could first recognize. Such as the fact that I knew that Jan was a college graduate, but I was unaware that she achieved that degree after her own children had received theirs. She was just 2 years away from receiving that diploma when her time and her attention were called elsewhere. And so at night, for a number of years, she finished those final classes. I knew she was dependable, but I didn't know just how determined she was, how driven she could be. And her efforts not only benefited her, but clearly then were an example for others. She didn't want to be uninformed, for she had hope. She had a belief in herself and her gifts that were admirable. But we do not want you to be uninformed, brothers and sisters, about those who have died, so that you may not grieve as others do who have no hope. Jan found joy in the many riches that this life offers us. She took pride and cherished, as Jimmy said, her Louisiana roots. She'd go back every year to see family and friends and to be back in the place once again that she called home, no matter where she might lay her head. She loved music of all kinds, and the sounds of home stayed with her always. And despite her humble beginnings, her foundational years were filled with joy. And she loved to travel, didn't she? She had that adventurous spirit that just called her to see, to taste, experience what God had made in this world and the people he had placed in it. She wanted to appreciate those moments. And again, maybe it was due to her love of her roots. She traveled to the island 3 times to be able to just soak up her beginnings there. But on the other hand, that adventurous spirit and her wanting to get soaked also led her to go kayaking with whales, or maybe go see all of Europe or down under too. She'd gone a long way from that simple Louisiana home that she had come from, and she seemingly enjoyed every minute of the journey. In your presence, there is a fullness of joy. In your right hand are pleasures forevermore. When I think about Jan, I think about the goodness and mercy that not only followed her, but were the gifts of God that flowed from her. She was, as Jimmy said, an amazing listener. For hours, she would sit by your side and give you her listening ear while you poured out your heart in pain or shared the joy that was bursting from it with sheer delight. One person here at church told me that her attention, her love, and her time were yours and yours alone. What made her amazing at this was her kind and gentle spirit. She was approachable, she was relatable, and she was understanding. When she listened, she'd share her heart and offer words of appreciation, and she would also offer words of correction, but doing so without a judgmental tone or intention whatsoever. Her words and her heart were given in response to your words in hope in making you and your life in that moment better. She was, as the kids mentioned to me, always able to share grace. She was able to see the best in every situation and was willing to share that insight with others. She could see the silver lining that others could not see. She could see the ray of hope that hid from the sight of those with heavy hearts. She brought joy, and she brought second chances. Surely, goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And for much of the time I've known Jan, she's been battling dementia. In many ways, this robs us of more than memories. It comes like a slow thief in the night, taking what we love most. But just before her passing, I was able to hold her hand and call her name. And when she heard my voice, she smiled. Those beautiful eyes opened and twinkled once again. For a brief moment, she seemed to know me and was in that moment with those of us that were around her. Maybe just for a moment, our Jan was back. Today we grieve and remember her. We remember these moments, and our hearts are heavy at her passing. And today we know that she is whole, she is complete, and she is as God made her once again. You see, God was ready to do something new in her life, and that was to give her rest and peace with Him for all eternity. See, I am making all things new. Also, He said, write this, for these words are trustworthy and true. While here in our presence, Jan loved her God. She served Him faithfully and served Him through all that she did. If you look at her life, you can see the life of Christ within her. For she cared, she loved, she shared, and she offered grace. She wanted to spend time with those she loved, and those she loved, she spent her favorite time with. And as Jimmy put it, she was one to lean in. While others would lean away from you when times got tough, she, like Christ, would be one who would lean into you, invest themselves more into you because you needed it and you needed them. She searched out her God and found Him in prayer. She went on retreats and devoted her time in talking to Him and learning to listen to Him. And that led her to share Him in ways like leading the efforts of establishing our Christmas brunch, or working with our First Friends group, or her soul friends here as they studied and worked on understanding God in our lives. This place is better because she was a part of us. And God's house is brighter today because she is in His presence. The words that she read in our pews and the ones that she prayed in her quiet times guided her to a life that was faithful and filled with love. And today, brothers and sisters, we grieve her passing, but we also should be rejoicing in knowing where she is, who she is with, and how He has made her whole once again. And to God be the glory for that. Amen. Will you join me again in prayer? God, we are grateful to be your sons and daughters. We are grateful to be loved and appreciated and a part of your family. We are grateful for your Son, Christ, who came to live among us, to show us how to live and how to love, and to offer us a way and a path home to you. God, we're grateful for the saints that have come, that have shown us how to follow in your Son's steps by their own life and their own example, and Jan Shirley was one of them. For we are better off having her as a part of our lives, maybe not for as long as we wished, but God, we are so richly blessed by being a part of her life. She shared with us her joy, her sorrows. She gave us words of encouragement and gave us of her love that was a love that surely came from you. And God, we are grateful this day that you have opened your arms up to her to receive her once again and to give her rest and a place to be forever. Help all of us, O God, come to know you and love you and follow you like she did, so that we can be reunited once again in your presence and live in the glory forever and ever. We say this in your Son's holy name. Amen.